So, you guys are getting yourselves ready to go on vacation, but guess what's still lurking in the background? You still going to have to get yourselves ready for back to school. You see the sales in the stores. I can't believe that's coming up. And you're like, why is all this stuff happening so soon? Because I know, especially this week, I know North Carolina started their classes. And before you know it, it's going to be your state that's going to be coming right back to the class as well. So why not start on a good foot? Not to the point where you have to literally take your child and drag them out of the bed in order to take them to school. And no more fighting and discussing. Why not start the year off great and continue it to have the best semester ever? So that's what we're going to be discussing tonight at Ask Audrey. And I have Miss Jessyka Coulter that's going to actually explain a little bit more with this best semester ever and how we can help parents make that connection with their kids and just have an amazing school year. So let me introduce you to Jessyka. Hey, Jessyka, how are you?
Good. How are you, Audrey? It's good to be here.
Oh, great. I'm so glad that you were able to be here and developing this event that's going to help a lot of parents out. Because I know sometimes a lot of us, especially like single parents, we just can't do it. Yes, we love our kids, but sometimes we just can't do it. So, how can this event really help those parents out?
Oh, well, Audrey, thanks to speakers like you, there are 32 of us, so all sorts of content tutoring for sure, let alone everything else that goes into school. So whether it's a matter of, like you talked about, dragging your kids out of bed in the morning, like what are those systems? Like what are those routines? And how do you actually talk to your kid and like let your kid talk back to you in the way that you want to happen, not the screaming and the fighting that happens sometimes all day, every day between mamas and their tweens or teens, even their college students.
Yes. I mean, and especially when you say even the college student, because everyone thinks that once they get older, they're able to do it themselves. No,
Be nice.
they still need assistance. They still
For
need
sure.
guidance. And you think that, okay, well, let me just focus on the little ones. But don't forget, like some of your older kids still need some kind of assistance as well. Can you give us like a small sample of like who, other than me, is going to be at, because people talk to me all the time. They're tired of me. Like they're just so sick of me. So they want to know who else is going to be at the event.
Definitely. So the cool thing about this event is I'm covering topics that are school related specifically. So things like Spanish and math and English. So we've got like Helen Panos is going to talk about writing. We've got Susan. I always want to mess up her last name, but Suzanne Ghost, I believe is how I say it, talking about Spanish. And then the cool thing is too that we're also diving into homeschool. So I know some of our listeners, might be public school, might be homeschool, and the cool thing is every single concept, every single topic is going to cover both. So some of our listeners homeschool their own children, have created curriculum specifically for homeschoolers. But I've got like a soft spot for like Shanda Smith because we talked about traveling and I love to travel. And then I've got a soft spot for Kendra Swalls because we talked about photography with your phone. I mean, who would think about, okay, is that really back to school? But I mean, every single student that we tutor, we know that either they're taking pictures, whether it's selfies, or their mamas are taking pictures at all of the events and hopefully award ceremonies that they're going to.
Yes. And one thing that I just love, and I can't wait to hear who's going to tackle this with the phone, the cell
Yes.
phone. Oh my goodness. Like, talk about pure addiction. I don't know. Like, I have seen, especially when I used to be in the classroom where we're always telling our kids to put our phones away, and I taught high school.
Mm-hmm.
And I love when they try to sneak text, like they're just angling their bodies and they think that you don't see them. Like they're like, you can't see me. And I'm like, seriously, dude? Like you're like looking down. I'm like, are you
Yeah.
praying?
What else
Like,
would you
what are
be
you
doing?
doing?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You make a
And
very
I'm
good
like,
point about that. Yeah.
yeah, it's really like hard. And just if you're having somebody's actually talking about like how we can really deal with the cell phones, because some teachers that I know that are still in the classroom, they're like, you know what? I pick and choose my battles. Or you'll have some teachers that will innovate, actually include it into the lessons. But as parents, what do you guys are seeing when it comes to like cell phones?
Yeah. That's exactly why screens are a big topic at this event. I've been trying to decide, how would I group everyone together? Like, what are those big kind of topics, those big overall ideas? And screen time is definitely one of them for sure. Let alone like the things like healthy eating, let alone the content, and then like the idea of communication and getting along. So to me, those are like the big topics. And when you say like phones specifically, I don't know if any of our listeners have ever heard of the Trumi phones. I wasn't very familiar with that until I talked to Bill Brady. So he's the CEO of Trumi, and we talk about, what are teens actually doing on their phones? Because there's, hundreds, thousands of possibilities, but the statistics are kind of scary. So, I mean, some of those things our teens are sneaking while they're at home, let alone sit in the classroom. It's like, you got to be kidding me. But, numbers are numbers. I mean, you know that better than I do. So, but oh man, and then gaming is a big thing too. I mean, you talk about kids
Yes.
texting in class. I can't tell you. It just it blows my mind when I think about middle schoolers, how addicted they are to Minecraft. Like, I don't know what it is about Minecraft. I've tried it before, and I gotta tell you, I'm like, this is so boring. I'm like, you're just building with blocks. And then I learned about survival mode, and survival mode's much better. So now I can understand a little bit more what the interest
Okay.
is. But yeah, we had to talk about that. And there's a connection with giftedness. I didn't know until I talked to Mark Talaga, one of the other speakers, that evidently our gifted kids are much more likely to get addicted to gaming than our neurotypical kiddos.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, and especially with the whole expression, and I'm starting to feel myself age every time I see more students coming to school. Because some of the games, I'm just like, yeah, I love when they're like, yeah, I just played this new game. And I'm like, what is it? Mortal Kombat. I'm like, oh dear. Um, it was around for a while, but sure. Okay, let's play. Um, and it just seems like, especially when you're talking about the whole social media, like with their phones, especially our teens. And like for me, I have like a huge heart for our student athletes. And a lot of people don't realize how much what they're putting on or what they're searching is actually going to show up, because people can easily look at your pages. And now that Instagram has threads, they can look at your threads. They may not be looking at your Twitters now, but they're definitely going to be able to look at your threads and to see what you're into. And that actually can be a component of getting a scholarship or not getting one.
Mhm.
So just a heads up, parents, like, just got to take an eye. I know we want to give them independence, but we have some things. And I have Miss Anna. I'm going to see if we can add Miss Anna to the stream if she wants to ask a question, because I did actually. Okay, they choose to mute themselves. No problem. So, Miss Anna, I guess you're just going to hang out and just listen in. But if you do have a question, please put it in the chat, and then I'll just bring you on in. Um, because the most part, it's just, I like the fact that you've created this, but what sparked it? Like, what was the initial spark?
Oh, well, I don't know what it says about me, Audrey, but I love doing these events. This is actually number 13. And so I was thinking about it, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure between you and everyone else at this event, let alone in my past events, I've interviewed 300 people that come to educators, parenting experts, any type of learning expert. So it's a matter of the fact that the more things I learn, the more I'm like, why didn't I know that when I was in high school? Or why, did my mom not know that? So to me, it just feels like, I'm trying to make sure more people know what I didn't know or that I wish I would have known. Because I mean, the things I learned about colleges and scholarships, I'm like, that would have saved me thousands, like thousands. And then I even think sometimes, probably you talk about dating yourself. I feel like I'm dating myself here when I just talk about, I think about conversations my mom and I have, and I'm like, oh, what I just learned from this particular person or that person, 2 years ago, I'm like, oh, I should do that instead. Or, oh, this is why I feel that way. It's like, so the cool thing is no matter if it's our mamas that are benefiting or if it's just they're learning things that can help their teens, I don't want to stop. I mean, it's just, there's too much for me to learn. And I know if I don't know it, there's how many over thousands of people that don't know it either.
Exactly. That's awesome. And then I noticed in your description, you have your study skills tutor. Talk a
I
little
do.
bit more about that.
Definitely. So that's more my background is. I mean, I was a content tutor for several years, focusing on like essay writing and like ACT prep, and I still do those things. But I learned that every single student I worked with didn't know how to learn. Like they were literally missing study skills. And that's something I've discovered is a lot of parents, let alone their teens, don't know. If you don't know how to study, you don't know how to learn. So that's where I focus. My last day is always my interview or a webinar, kind of depends on the event. I try to change it up. And it's just I try to that's where I go. And the fact is every single thing I talked about, whether it was math with you or girl drama with Sherry Gizzy, it's like, okay, there is a connection to how to learn with every one of these things.
Yes. And just a heads up, parents, we do not teach making notes in class. I just
No.
want to let you know, just a heads up. It's like the same thing with handwriting. Like some places do not do cursive writing, don't do handwriting. Once their kids get into multiplication, division, they're not doing like what we used to do. We used to have the cadence, like, all right, everyone, let's do our 4 times tables. Like they don't do that anymore. They just automatically bring in our lovely calculators. And everyone's like, what's happening? Like, I feel like a lot of kids are losing touch. And we as teachers, we're so used to making copies and like, okay, here's a copy of the packet. This is a copy of what we're going to practice on. But when it comes down to notes, I know so many parents are like, I asked my child their notes, and it's like, there's something here, there's
Mm-hmm.
something on the side here, there's a drawing of a cat, and then there's that has nothing to do with what's going on here. There's a math problem that looks like an S, like I don't know. So it's like it has to start sooner than later, and that's also something to really think about. Like even though Jessica's doing all these great events to make you aware, you also can get her services as well to help with organization. Because trust me, you've seen the backpacks, people. You've seen the endless black hole called the backpack. You spent like, I don't know how much money on one of the top notch backpacks that could carry like a small baby. And you're like, okay, what's going in there? Once in a while, I'm telling you, regardless of how old they are, just take a scan, take a look. It'll be that one homework assignment that you see on the grades that was missing, that was worth 100 points, and it's still in the backpack. Complete it, but still in the backpack. So it's always nice to have someone that can help with not only your study skills, but also to help with some bits of organization as well.
Oh,
That's
for sure. I mean,
awesome.
organization is definitely one of those study skills I teach, and I gotta tell you, I like the black hole idea. I might have to steal that, Audrey, but I just met with a student that went through my motivation workshop, and he described his backpack as a pancake. He was like, "Okay, I put all the papers in there loose, and so that always hurts my heart because I'm a big like believer in folders. Like that's one of my number one school supplies. So for like all our listeners, I was like, that's what they need. It needs to be the plastic ones with the pockets with the brads, and I have a whole thing about that, Audrey, we could talk about. But the fact is, though, he's like, yeah, I put the papers in there, and he's like, within 3 days, they've kind of like all fallen and got smushed by the books and the notebooks going in and out, and then it's just a pancake at the bottom of my backpack. And so then I asked him, even like in a consultation, and I was like, well, do you go through at least once a week to know what the pancake is made of? No,
Right.
eventually when mom tells me, things are missing or the teacher tells me I'm failing, I'll look. But until then, the pancake just gets thicker. And I'm like, why would you do that? Why is that a thing? Even at a middle school, let alone high school or college level.
I mean, it's almost like, as we keep saying, they still need guidance.
They
Like,
don't have the
even
skills.
though you're like, just because of age, I hate to say age is nothing but a number, but it is a number.
Yeah,
And they still need that whole entire guidance as well. So,
definitely.
with all of these events, your study skills, like I'm really just like praising and just I want people to connect with you as best you can. We all have her address with it. I think I do. I had your email address, which was the Acecookietutoring at gmail.com.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay. For some reason I had it and now it's just poof, gone. But that's my life. That's how things go in this world of Ask Audrey.
Definitely. And
But
one of
how can they get in touch with you for the summit? I mean, not the summit, but the event. How can they get in touch with you with that?
Yeah. So if they wanted to go to my website, acecookie.tutoring.com, they would easily find connections there, or even through my Facebook group, or pretty much on any social. So whether it's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, I'm pretty much everywhere. So, and I mean, Audrey, you and I are connected now. So, I mean, if they go to anything that you shared about the event, it would be there too.
Yes. So if you can't really get to the Ace Cookie, which I love your name of the I was like, every time I look at it, I'm like, I could eat a cookie right now.
I
Okay, we're gonna
know,
let that
it's
go.
bad.
Um, but if you do need her, you can go to the acecookietutoring.com, or you can actually message me and I can give you all the information. It is a free event, okay? It is a free event. But if you are one of those type of people that you're just like, okay, there's 32 people, I don't know if I'm going to be able to hit on everyone, but it is something that I need. That means you're going to need to upgrade to that VIP. Now, with the VIP, can you talk a little bit more of like what do they get for the VIP?
Definitely. So the cool thing is at this event that they can choose between the VIP basic and the VIP extra. So I haven't ever offered that before. So for our listeners that are like, okay, I know Jessyka Coulter, I've been to an event, they're like, what's this extra thing? It's really, really awesome. I'm excited about this. So with the VIP basic pass, the simplest answer is lifetime access. So that way, like you said, if they're like, I got this, and this going on, you can just watch them whenever you want, or you can listen to them whenever you want, or read the transcript. So since, I'm so focused on those learning styles, it's like I got to hit all three. So I don't just offer the videos. I don't just offer the audios. I get them all three because I would rather listen, or I'd rather read all day than listen. That's just who I am. And I know there's people like me out there, like, no, I don't want to sit and watch. I'd rather just let me read the book. And then I also offer actually a tutoring lesson of my own. So I do a 30-minute lesson with the VIP basic and a 60-minute lesson for the extra. And it's very much learning, kind of how do we actually sit down and study? Like, what's that study session need to look like? That's the kind of 30-minute, and then the 60-minute, we get to spend some time on that. And then, like you talked about note taking, we get to spend some time on what are those 7 note taking rules that all students need. Because no matter if we're talking math, if we're talking science, English, whatever, those rules they need for every class, middle school through life. Like, no matter if we're talking adults, college students, whatever. And then I'm so happy, and this is probably Audrey, I'm like, this is what I really probably should have started with, right? Is that every single speaker almost is providing an awesome gift for the VIP extra. So there's not just stuff for me, there's not just the forever access, there's not just the action guide, there is awesome stuff like your boot camp that has been provided. So I'm beyond excited that people are like, okay, the interviews, like that's just a little bit of the help you get. You get even more help.
So this is like jam-packed, guys. Like there's no kidding. And not just because I'm in it. Usually if I do anything, I make sure that it's something that's going to be beneficial, not just for me, but for the public. Because we all know, especially as parents, it's tough. It's tough. Sometimes you don't know which is truth, which is fiction, and you're spending most of your time trying to figure out who is not lying. It's almost like that game of 2 truths and a lie, and you're like, okay, who's the liar? What's going on? So I can move on with my life. Everything is going to be presented is going to be useful. You can use it automatically. You don't have to wait. And it's something that will actually benefit maybe not only you to keep your sanity, but also is going to benefit your child as they progress, especially in those transition years. All right. So this is basically like a special Ask Audrey. I'm so glad that Jessyka was able to come in. Again, if you want to reach out to her, just go to acecookietutoring.com. Of course, you squeeze it all together. I'm addicted to spaces. I'm a Gen Xer. We're trying to figure it out. But thank you so much for visiting us. And I will see you guys tomorrow for our special ed version with Kathy Cosimo. So she's going to be talking a little bit more of like students with dyslexia, and also like what are some of the things and some of the tips that you can go through to help your child out. All right, guys, take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye now.